Welcome, everyone. My name is Kylie Minson. I'm a marketing associate here at InflowCX. And today we're going to be talking about workforce management, scheduling business units as part of our Genesys Admin Training series. So we do have some webinars coming up here in the next few weeks. The first one being the future of customer experience, exploring the possibilities with Genesys XD. Come join and learn about Genesys XD in that webinar. It'll be a great time. On May 31st, we are having a fireside chat with called Journey. And we're going to be discussing contact center insights with conversation analytics. So this should be a really exciting webinar. You get to hear from some of the leaders in the contact center space. And so, yeah, if you haven't registered for those, go ahead and sign up at our website. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So we're going to do a brief little intro about InflowCX in case this is your first time joining us. And then from there, I'm going to hand it off to Richard Dixon, who is going to be leading you guys on the scheduling business units content. From there, we'll have a question or Q&A session, but feel free to drop your questions in the either Q&A box or in the chat box throughout the presentation. And if we don't get to them, we'll absolutely hit them at that point. And then we'll have a wrap up, how to reach out to us in case you have more questions for us. So a little bit about Inflow. Here at Inflow, we help you evolve your contact center technology and operations to deliver unparalleled experiences for your customers. And so we do this by evaluating, deploying, and optimizing your customer engagement technology and strategy through providing vendor-neutral approaches to CX technology. We have BPO and labor strategy, and we also help with operational effectiveness. We help you make data-driven decisions when evaluating these technology through our ROI and TCO and business case modeling. Our expertise spans the core CCaaS environment as well as AI, CX, UC, WFO, BPO, automation, analytics, you name it, we can probably help you with it. And then with that, here's just a sampling of some of the amazing customers we have the opportunity to work with. As you can see, all different verticals, all different sizes, and yeah. And then these are just some of the technology partners that we work with. And like I said, this is just a sampling. So as you can see, we really do know what we're talking about. We're working with the best in the industry, to help customers like you. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Richard. Oh, and I think you're muted.
There we go. That helps a little bit, unmuting. All right, so we're going to go over kind of the business scheduling. So prerequisites, what you're going to need to be able to do to set up scheduling in the system is you're going to need Genesys CX1 with the WFM add-on, Genesys Cloud CX2, Genesys Cloud CX2 with web add-on, or Genesys Cloud 3 or the Genesys Cloud EX license. So all those are going to be mandated in order for you to be able to even work within the workforce management side of things. Along with that, you'll need the roles with this workforce management, publish, schedule, view, and publish, schedule, add, delete, generate, and view. The following prerequisites are going to be for the teams. So if your group or your work team permission is for all non-conditional, you can select work team rather than the management unit. If your work team permission is limited to a specific work team conditional, you can select only your permitted work teams that are within the scheduled management unit. If you do not have access to any work teams in the scheduled management unit, you'll have to select a team list that is empty. If you do not have any groups, work team permissions, you cannot select a work team that is within the workforce management view. So there's a couple different schedules that we'll go over here. I'm going to drag you over to where we find this at. So when we go into our admin section here, we're going to go down to the workforce management, and then we're going to go down to schedules. And then once we click into schedules, it'll give us another view here. Part of this, there are going to be a couple things that you need to have set up already. You're going to have your business unit and your management unit set up. That way you can generate individuals within that schedule there. So you'll have scheduling here. And then in order to generate a new schedule, you'll actually just click the lightning bolt generate here, as opposed to something over on the right-hand side, which most things are. It is right here, the lightning bolt. That's what we're looking for. So the schedule week, we're going to look for the start date, number of weeks. We'll give it a description, and then we have a couple options here, which is the schedule forecast, the schedule with forecast, without forecast, and blank schedule. So I'm going to minimize this and go over each one of those. So to create a schedule with a forecast isn't really going to be available for you initially. When you first set up Genesys, when you first get into it, you do kind of want to let the system bake with the flows that you already have built out before you really dive into workforce management and the automation of that, until about roughly 3 months of running and operating before you really dive in to start working with the forecasting portion of it, because you're just not going to have good data available at that time. And even importing the data doesn't work as well. You really want to let it bake for a while before diving into it. So to create a schedule with a forecast, those are load-based schedules using the scheduling engine to determine the best way to meet the needs of the forecast. And that's going to be off the data that's already in place. So that's where you're going to want to let it bake. That way you get the best data possible to get the best kind of forecast available. And the process constraints comes from the work plans and the agents of those work plans. So you'll need to build out a work plan to get that to really generate the data that you want. The next step after that is when you don't have one built out and you're kind of making your first one. In this case, you're going to create a schedule without a forecast, and that's what we're going to do today. These schedules create a blank schedule for the entire shift pattern with no forecast is available because we haven't generated one yet. We don't have the data. We don't have that baking in point. So we're just getting something going here. The method implies by the searching algorithm by the shortest, median, longest, and stage time span for selected shift length, and the earliest, median, the latest stage, and the start time for flexible shifts. And then the blank one is going to rely on the administrator to add agents, create shifts, and configure the shift pattern. So at least for the initial one, I'd recommend doing the create schedule with forecast. All right, get back over to it. So I get to get it unminimized here. So create a schedule without a forecast. We're going to do staggered shift start, earliest, median, shift. These are the different options in here. And then we also have the shift length. So we'll go back into this, go to the different shift options here. So the earliest shift start, that's going to be the earliest to select the shift time according to the work plan. For example, if a work plan shift start time starts between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. So we have a, kind of like what we do here. We start at 8 a.m. Eastern time, and it continues to 11 a.m. Eastern time as far as our shifts start. And every 30-minute intervals, the schedule generates the shift at 8 a.m. being the most preferred. In the event where shifts are different start time is unavailable due to constraint or violation, the next earliest would be 8:30, and it'll take priority from there. Median shift time, this gives you the ability to shift the start time as the midpoint between the earliest and the latest. So for example, it's 8 a.m. And the end is 10. It's going to give 9 representing the midpoint. So the midpoint shifts for 2 shift start times represent the median. The lesser of those 2 values are shown. A staggered shift start, which is the default. This option allows you to select the shift start time for a uniform sampling of shift times. Here are all the shift times have the equal probability of being chosen. And the latest option is to select the latest shift from the start time. If this time is unavailable due to constraint or violation, just like the earliest one, the preceding shift time will be chosen to generate the schedule. For our example, the earliest shift time is 8. We're starting at 10. 10 is the most preferred. If not available, then 9:30 will go down. So it'll sequentially go down from that point. All right. So create without forecast. We're going to do the staggered shift time and the shift length. Go into that one next. So the earliest shift length gives a preference for the shortest length of shift per work plan. For example, if a work plan shift starts between 6 and 9 hours with 1 hour interval, the shortest length time would be 6 hours, which would be most preferred. The median, which is going to basically be the same thing as the median start time, it's going to look between 6 to 9, and 7 is going to be the best option. And then staggered is going to give the performance after uniform sampling of the shift is started similar to the start equivalent. And the latest is going to prefer the 9-hour work as opposed to the 6-hour in that situation. apologize, clicked the wrong one. Let me get back over to it. So we're going to generate a schedule. So we'll go here. We'll do Monday. We're just going to do 1 week. Schedule description. You can put anything that you want in there. We're going to do without a forecast, staggered shift time, and median shift length. We just click generate. And then we wait for it. And if it decides not to work, we'll go with one that we've already started on. Since it's given us a little trouble this morning, since we don't really have a whole lot of stuff baked in, we'll go with one that we've already built out. So you see, we have an on cue section here, a break, on cue again, a meal time, on cue, break, and meal. That way we give everybody a 15-minute break for the first half of their shift, as well as a meal time in between, along with a staggering individual. So in order for me to be able to really adjust the times, we're going to click on a couple different dots here. You can see time off on here. This will give me the entire week view. If I go to the vertical here, this is going to give me how many hours of paid time per agent. This is going to give me the entire month that I have scheduled out, which I only have 1 week. And this allows me to change the date range. So go back in here. We'll see if we can add another agent or just adjust. So I need to adjust the time. So I know that Dixon number 2 is going to need to do some training between after their break. So instead of Q here, which I can drag this around in order to adjust it, we can add different times, which is going to be using this drop down here. We can do meal, meeting, off cue, on cue, off time, training, or unavailable. So in this case, we're going to do training. And then we're just going to drag a block down into here. So I can adjust that, place it here, delete the on cue time if it will cooperate. It's giving me a little trouble this morning. So you can adjust the training time. So for this duration, we're going to give them a 1 hour training. So we're going to reduce that. So they're going to have a 1 hour training available, and the rest is going to be on cue. So it's as simple as finding what you want to add in here. So if I need to extend a break or add a meal time or even a meeting that I need to throw into the schedule, I can drag it down and make those adjustments. Anytime you make an adjustment, it's going to give the slashes through there to indicate that it's not saved. So once I save it, do a quick refresh. There we go. And you now see it's applied. It was just taking a while when it was saving there. But you can see the training has been applied because it's now a solid color versus the stripes that we've added in there. So if we need to do an after work meeting, take meeting, we'll go to the plus mark here. We can drag it down. Alternatively, we can also go here and make different changes to the activities for that individual. So if you click the plus box here, we can choose what we want to do. In this case, so we'll go with meal. We can do a start time, the length counts as paid time or not, yes or no. And we have the options to extend or add the shift, adjust length activity, or do not insert. So in this case, I'm going to do not insert. We need to select the agent that we want to have it. So we'll do Dixon 1, we'll add another meal time. We'll make it, let's make it 3 p.m. It did not apply like I wanted it to. We'll do adjust activity length. There you go. You can see that the new meal time has been added there. So you can make adjustments in two different sections here. So you can either drag and drop, or ideally you would go in and you would add it here when you're initially setting it up. So you would add the agent activity. So we'll kind of start from scratch here. We'll delete all of this for the first agent. And then we'll go about it this way. So you can suggest ideal times. This is where the forecasting really comes into play, but because we don't have a forecast implemented yet, it's not really going to work well. So in this case, we'll do on cue for the date. Start time, we'll do 08. Length in minutes, we'll do 120, counts as paid time. We're going to extend or add new shift. We're going to choose the agent that we want to add. Click add. We'll now go back in. We'll add a break in this case. At 10. Give it a 15-minute break, counts as paid. Add our user again. So if we're creating a larger schedule and we have a lot of people that are going to be on the same shift, you can do this for a batch of people as opposed to just one individual at a time. Go back on cue for another 120. We'll do it at 10:15. Go for a lunch. Give them an hour. Non-paid lunch. It didn't add this time, I apologize. PM. And if you notice, I made a mistake and put it at 12 a.m. instead of PM. So I can go in here and edit that. And then if I made a mistake, I can adjust the time by dragging it and putting it back. So it's pretty easy to correct the errors that you make in this situation. So we'll go back to on cue. We'll go 1:15. We'll go for back on cue. Another 120-minute section. I'm going to stretch that because I want to go a little bit further. So I'm going to go to 3:30, give them that break. One more break, 15 minutes. Let's start at 3:30. And you see we're continuously building out. And the last bit, let's go to on cue. And then we can save it, and that'll republish it, or save it at least. And then once you go live and you're wanting to publish, at that point you can publish. This allows the individuals to see, once they get into it, they'll be able to see what their schedule is. And then depending on how you set it up, you can also make it where with or without supervisorial action, you can do shift trades as long as it meets the same requirements. So they'll have both of the same sections available. So if I want to trade shifts with somebody else and they want to take over mine, but they meet the same amount of required time, it can take over from there. Do one more refresh since it's taking its time. So you have the queue, on queue, the meal duration, on queue again. I'd overlapped the timing as far as putting that break in there, but they're pretty easy to go in and edit, where you just go back in. So since I had forgotten about that break, where it's saved without it, I can put that break in here. We'll do 3:15. And instead of extend or add new shift, we're going to do adjust. Oh, forgot to add an agent here. And you see it adjusted and applied it into that section there. And then we did save again to be able to have that. And then you'd publish after everything is ready to go. You can see the different individuals. It shows you how many people are scheduled at that time down towards the bottom here. Just going to see if I can make it a little bit easier to see. Down at the very bottom, it's going to show you how many individuals are scheduled at a certain time. So if you notice at the 10 a.m. here, it has one person scheduled because there is a break, and then 1 throughout that time because of training and the different breaks that are involved there. It's going to show you how many people are scheduled during that time. So some of the keyboard shortcuts that are available. So you can assign shifts by hitting Control-Shift-Q and Control-Shift-T. Those are options there to replace shifts with an activity. So that's basically what we did, is we clicked the plus mark in the corner there. We replaced it with an activity. You can do entire shifts or shifts with an activity by hitting Shift-R. Replace activity, that's going to be Shift-B. Swap shifts going to be Shift-W. Copy agent to copy activities to an agent, that's going to be Shift-A. Copy shifts to an agent, which will be Shift-M. Copy shifts to days, which is going to be Shift-D. And then remove selections, which you saw a couple of times, clicking on it and then hitting delete. And then you can add agents or remove agents. There's no shortcut keys for that. Any questions about adding blocks of time to a schedule? So historical ACD data being imported, we have found does not work very well. That's why we're saying really recommend letting it bake for about 3 months before going forward. The engineering side and the TAT side, when they're working on this, have definitely expressed that the historical ACD information does not work well in there, because there's going to be differences from your old system to this system. So it's not going to translate very well. So that's why the recommendation is to let it bake for about 3 months. And there can be some variance in time on it, but that's what has been given to me by their side to get the best kind of data and the best kind of forecasting, because it's going to be different systems and they don't work together.
And it looks like we got another one in the chat.
So if an agent works over their shift by 10 minutes and we want to add it to their shift, is this within the workforce management under planning that you're trying to add it? As far as media type, I'll have to get back to you on that. I know it works for the voice as far as making it individual per the the user or for the media type button, I'm not positive on that one.
Awesome. And Paul, to answer your question, we will publish the recording on our YouTube, and I can have that link sent to you once that's, or I can let you know when that's ready. So thanks for asking.
So Larry, if they were on a long call, that could be adjusted afterwards. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to do that because we can't show that because we don't have one to adjust in here for the demo purpose. But it can be adjusted afterwards to make that match. Sure, if it's not been migrated over from another system, then it should work well for being able to help with that forecasting. That's where you would use the automatic forecasting. There's a few other things that you would need to do ahead of time. We were just going over the section that deals with the direct scheduling, which is more the manual input, but there is some automation that you can do and set up that way.
Great question, Paul. And we'll have this be our last question from Derek. Is there a limit to the number of agents that you could batch at the same shift or change?
I had to pull up, but it's roughly around, I think this said about 5,000 agents that you can have within a management unit. So as long as they're able to be put into that particular shift, it should be all of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Richard, for helping us out with the webinar today. And thank you everyone for joining us. We love seeing all you guys join. And yeah, be sure to check out our website. We have a few other webinars coming up for this month. And so we'd love to see you again. So with that, everyone have a wonderful day and we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Bye.